Hey, everybody. Welcome to Perpetual Motion, a program about current trends, communication, wellness, and relationships. I'm the host, Dr. Mo Anderson, and my goal is to help you stress less, produce more, and love the ones you're with. My guest this episode is Shelia D. Harvey. Shelia wants to be your personal financial friend. She retired from a 30-year career as a tax lawyer and founded the Coco Millionaire organization. Now she helps others make the most of their incomes with personalized conversations about financial priorities and concerns. So if you're ready to get real about your income and expenses, let's talk money, honey. Stay tuned. All right, Shelia D. Harvey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Mo. I'm so happy to be here on the show.
Just a pleasure, just a pleasure. We go back a long ways. As I said in the intro, you've got experience as a tax lawyer, a successful novelist, happily married, you dance, you sing. I know you can cook too. So you are just
sound so good.
You are good.
Thank you.
You are good. You're
you
amazing.
Make me like myself.
Well, hey, if you didn't, let's start on that because you're very likable. Let's just jump right in here before we even talk about personal financial friend. Let's just share with everybody, what is the biggest mistake people make with personal finances?
In my observation, the biggest mistake people make is that they don't know what their values are, and whether they have money or need to have more money, they can't figure it out because they don't know what their ultimate goal is with respect to money. They don't know what it means, what money itself means, that it's not just the dollar bills, it's what you can do with that. And what you do with it is attached to what you value in your life as a human being. And so people just, you ask them, they want a certain amount of money,
right?
But when you ask them for what, a lot of them don't know. They don't have a goal that's value oriented. And if you don't have a goal, you're not going to get anywhere. That's my view. And so that's been the biggest mistake I see across the board. People just don't know what they value. Therefore, they don't know what they're saving and spending money for.
That's beautiful that you connect those two because, a lot of people don't have financial literacy and they think it's all about cash flow and reading reports. But at the heart of it, as you just said, it's got to be purpose driven. What do you value? What do you value? And I don't think I've even heard anybody say that before. I really, really like that as a starting point, as a foundation. So tell me about, you've got a website, you've trademarked the term, My Personal Financial Friend. Tell me about that.
Okay, I'll tell you. When I was working as a tax attorney, I had a friend at work, my best friend at work, Janet, and Janet and I wanted to retire around the same time. And so we started talking about retirement. And it got to the point where every morning we get together for, 5 minutes over coffee or whatever and talk about all kinds of things. But we talked about money because that's, of course, a big component of retirement. And I just came to realize that Janet, in addition to being my friend in general, was my personal financial friend because she was the friend I talked to about money. She was a friend and she talked to me about money. So, if there was a big purchase coming up or some sort of a decision that needed to be made regarding our retirement plans or whatever, we would share information. And it was so eye-opening and so helpful to me. And I just think that I advocated for everybody. You need to have a friend that you talk to about money. We have friends that we go out to dinner with. We have friends we travel with. We have friends, and all friends aren't good for everything, right?
Oh, but girl, yes, like to travel with.
Right, exactly, right. And talking about money, you want to do it with somebody who's discreet, somebody who has some knowledge they can share with you, and then you share knowledge with them as well. It's got to be some sort of a fair trade going on, right?
Right.
And so that's where I got the idea from, just from my personal relationship with Janet.
Well, that's wonderful that you have that relationship, that you're passing on that concept. But again, so many of us are taught that you don't really discuss your finances,
Exactly.
outside of the home. And I mean, how else are you going to get any other opinions, about your personal objectives without a personal financial friend? But I'm curious, that's not your first conversation with somebody. So what was it about Janet? You worked at a big company. There were a lot of people there. You were having a lot of conversations, I would think. What was it about her conversation or habits, or what did you observe about her that prompted you to engage in that type of conversation?
Well, Janet and I were alike in a lot of ways, and then we were different in so many ways. So Janet, and I'll just put it out there. Sorry, Janet. She was a trust fund baby to a certain extent, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
So that was different from, I was middle class teacher's kid, right? So just fairly middle class. And Janet brought to my attention certain familial and things that were passed on in her family about money management that I wasn't necessarily exposed to. And she just really had a sharp, she had a good thought process and just a really sharp consciousness when it came to spending and saving money. And I like to emphasize that what I talk about with my clients isn't just saving, because you're saving for something, right? So you're not saving just for the benefit of saving, you're saving to spend or to leave as an inheritance or something, but generally not just to keep it in the bank. And Janet was just, and because we, kind of had the same goal as far as when we wanted to retire, she was just a breath of fresh air to talk about the things that she did in order to make sure her family was financially secure. And so the things that were different and the things that we shared in common, it was just a good fit.
Right. And I'm getting from that too, you kind of would want somebody who was your equal or more. I don't know that this would work to go get a college student that's in a ton of debt to be, unless they're majoring in finance, it can give you some theoretical stuff. But
well, and you know what, Dr. Mo, it's that girlfriend, and you love them. They're your girlfriend, you love them, but they got to have the latest this, latest that.
Right.
They're all, that their credit is kind of questionable. I love them, but I don't need them to be my financial friend. They may need me to be their friend, because you can have more than one, right? Yeah. And I think it's good to be in a position where you are mentoring someone else, sharing your knowledge with someone who can use it and can learn from you financially, but you also need, for your own growth, someone that you can learn from. So it's just a mix. But yeah, you can't just the girlfriend who's good for going out to dinner and knows all the restaurants. She or even the guy friend, that might not be the one that can help you figure out your money.
And when you're around people long enough, you kind of get a clue about how they manage things. And I do have a personal financial friend, Marie, Doc Holliday. We talk about investments, we talk about interest rates, refinancing things, equity, and it's really good conversations, and we share things. It's not challenging each other or bragging, but it has helped me, a lot. And I'm glad that you're teaching people to do that, because it's not something I learned at home. My parents did not discuss finance with anybody, and I was not to say a word when I left the house. In fact, it was almost frowned on, like you were bragging or something.
And it's kind of like, how it's faux pas to ask someone, how much do you make? Or and the people felt like it was all wrapped up together. So any conversation about money, either you were just being ill-mannered or you were bragging. So and even corporations are coming around on that with transparency. So hopefully my granddaughter won't make 80 cents to her colleague making $1 now that that's coming forward. But you mentioned that your clients. So my personal financialfriend.com
is Sheila's website. You guys need to check it out. It's amazing, but she does have programs that she offers clients. Tell us about your program, how you're set up.
Well, I am set up to be any person's personal financial friend. So if you have not developed one in your personal life, I'm here. And even if you do have one in your personal life, I am a personal financial friend to my clients in that I offer them different perspectives. I listen to, like, my typical client may be someone who wants to do, just say if they have one particular thing that's kind of on their mind that they want to talk about. I can do this little one pop thing with them where we talk about a particular issue and just give them a different perspective. These clients who want that little limited advice from me are generally people who are pretty well versed financially, but they just have something that's kind of they want to talk out, right? And so we talk that out. Often, and one of my favorite category of clients is newlyweds. I love talking to young people who are just starting their lives, right? And so it's it's almost like part therapy because you get these two people, they're in love, they got all this debt from the wedding. They they may have had to go because of the way things are these days. Maybe they got engaged in Paris or London or somewhere because that's
right.
a hot thing.
Destination.
And
yeah.
then reality hits.
Mhm.
Hits. And so for that sort of client, I will do like a 6-week session and we'll just go through some things, starting with, and I always start with helping them to understand what they really value in life. What is it that is that your life is centered around? And we want to see how we're going to get to funding that reality first, right? So I'm non-judgmental. Tell me what you want to tell me. I'm confidential, which you would want even your friend, your girlfriend, your
Right.
boyfriend, you're out, you want somebody who's trustworthy, confidential, non-judgmental, level-headed, and just kind of has some common sense and some financial sense. So given my background, I have probably a little bit more financial exposure than who your outside friend may be, but I'm not a financial planner. I don't do that. I am more of a values coach, I would say,
Right.
and just to help you get at it that way. So that's mainly what I do. And then I have some other things, but I don't want to go too far. I'll let you.
Don't get ahead of me. I want to talk a little bit more about your background because some people might be like, well, I can just talk to my banker or my accountant, or some people may have a financial planner, but what would be different in talking with you? I'm assuming it's more personalized, but in what other ways is what you're doing different from talking to one of them?
Well, you know what? I will say it a million times over. What I talk about is value driven. For example, you may have a person who's cleaning up their credit, right? And they'll go talk to a credit advisor or whatever. They clean their credit up, but unless they have made some bigger life decisions regarding what they want to do value wise, they're going to end up probably back in that same situation. I see it over and over again. Now, in I practiced tax law for over 30 years. And I got to look at the intimate financial details of people from multi-billionaires to people that just got laid off and, depending on that unemployment check. And the one thing, well, there were several things I noted. One is that people who have money take their money seriously. And I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but they generally, whether they quote unquote worked for it or inherited the money or whatever, they respect the money that they have, and they generally speaking treat it the way it should be treated. They're not ignorant about how they treat their money, right? So that's one of the things that I learned about people who are truly wealthy. They have a healthy respect. They educate themselves on financial issues so that the money they have they can keep it and they can grow it. Okay. Now, the other thing that I observed is whether you are a person who just got laid off or you're a doctor, say, and you make a healthy living, unless you have that sort of regard for your money, it doesn't matter. You're going to end up broke. Okay.
Right. You can live paycheck to paycheck, making 5 figures a month, 6 figures. Right.
You can. And I mean, I can see, I have one member of my Coca Millionaires that I'm just so proud of. Mm-hmm. She is a teacher and she's owns her own home. She's single. And I'm looking at her and she sent her daughter to college. And I'm trying to figure out, how did you do all of this on a teacher's salary? And she did it. You know, and I won't go into the details of it, but she managed it. She understood what she wanted out of life. She wanted to be able to send her daughter to college. She wanted to be a homeowner, and she managed her money in a way that, helped her accomplish those goals. Whereas there are some doctors I know, hey, pay one paycheck away from whatever.
Well, we've seen it, right? Every time there's been a recession. We've seen it, how quickly those for sale signs go up at the McMansions, because they're not, thinking ahead, not saving, not investing, just thinking it's going to last forever.
Kind of floating out there with no,
Oh, yeah. You're bringing home a lot of good points. One of the things that, we see so much of now, and this is just in terms of values and assets and what's really important is, music videos. When I'm scrolling through the gram, TV shows, commercials, spend so much time promoting bling and Birkin bags and cars and all these, symbols of success in America, in Western society, I should say, because it's not the same all over the world. And in the conversations that I have, I feel like some people actually feel like those are investments. Like, they'll say their Louis or their Coach purse, you can have this forever. And I just want to know, what's your take on that, of buying material things and determining what's truly an asset?
Well, the first thing I would have to confess is that I empathize, because I do, because I remember back when I was like college age, I wanted a Volkswagen Rabbit car.
I remember that
badly. You know what I mean? So, and I was never into like the bags or whatever, but there were certain things that I really did want. And I understand that feeling, and I empathize, and even more than empathize, because today the pressure is even greater than it was back then when I was
everywhere.
And you have it coming from you from every angle. I mean, it's every, wake up, go to bed, it's just there. So I empathize, but I also, especially with my young clients, I have to get them and always remind them that you gotta go to your fundamental goals. I mean, so you want this bag, but you also want to get a short-term goal. You also want to go on vacation. You want to, go on vacation with your kids. You want to take your kids to Disney World, right? Whatever you want to do. And you really value that. You want them to have that experience. You're going to have to make some decisions. Maybe you can't get that bag right now. You're going to have to decide what means the most to you.
Gotcha.
And it's different for every person. And so one of the things that if you're into bags, okay, but there's got to be a sacrifice somewhere else if your fundamental just pure math budget doesn't allow for it.
Right.
Numbers are real. And so I encourage people to figure out what they want for themselves, not what I want to get to impress Dr. Mo. I need to get what I want for myself. So if there's something, for example, just using because as a personal financial friend, I do use myself often.
Okay.
Example. But if there's something that I really, really want, I want this pair of shoes over here and they cost $800. Okay. If I really want them, then, and I make a decision to get them, that's okay, because in conjunction with making that decision that I'm going to get them, I also made some sort of decision on how that's going to fit into my budget and what I might have to sacrifice. Okay. So I don't judge people on what they want. I do not, but I just try to get them to understand that this has got to fit into your big picture. You cannot in isolation go throw your, put your hands over your eyes, put your hands over your ears and go and spend all this money that you really don't have. It's just,
and hope it all works out.
Do what?
I said, and hope it all works out. And that's just to interrupt, but I'm just thinking back when I was younger and learning fiscal sense to go to work knowing I had already spent my next paycheck. That's a terrible feeling. That is no way to live and this was me in college. And I, as an adult, that's a horrible way to live, particularly when you've got other people depending on you. And of course, anybody out there who's gone through some medical issue or some other problem, we understand you can get into financial issues through no fault of your own, not mismanagement. Correct. Disasters happen, but we're talking about these things where you intentionally went on the internet and over ordered. So right. Well, when we think about the spending habits as well, the other lesson I'm sure you're sharing with your clients is that debt and how that impacts their FICO. I'm so happy now to see commercials and different apps and different companies reminding people to check it, which a lot of people never did, but also, good debt versus bad debt. Or do you even use that company? That's something I've heard Sue Zorman and other people talk about, mortgage debt versus the shoes.
I do. I do. I don't want to say I believe in debt, but debt is a fundamental cornerstone at every level, at an individual level, and at, managing the government, corporate level or whatever. Debt has its part to play, right? In your finances. That's how I feel. I'm not one of those zero debt persons, because the thing about zero debt that I don't know whether a lot of people know is if you have no debt at all, that's not going to help your credit score. No, because the purpose of having this credit score is that creditors want to know that you're the type of person who can repay a debt in a timely fashion, the way you promised to do. That if you promise them, I'm going to pay you $100 a month for the next, 4 years, they want to know that you can do that. If you have no credit record of paying on a timely basis, they don't know. So it's good to have some debt. Okay. Some debt actually even helps your credit score, but it has to be what you can manage, what you can afford. And there's so much that goes into it. So in my estimation, debt for purchasing a home is good debt. Question, and I love to throw a question back to you. What about debt for purchasing a car? What kind of debt is that? Because they say as soon as you drive off the parking lot,
it depreciates. We know that's not an asset that's going to appreciate, and this is a discussion I have with friends a lot. I believe in reliable transportation. And I believe in safe transportation, which is going to cost you a little more for the airbags and good tires. And, I want to be comfortable, reliable, safe, and comfortable. But when I got a car last year, and I share with my sons, even though they're in their 30s, everything they do, I looked at used cars, I looked at new cars, I looked at the Carfax, I wanted to see if there were any accidents. I called my insurer and to know, these are the two cars I'm looking at. What will my insurance be? What are costs going to be to maintain the car? All of that is available. But when I was young, I just got caught up in, oh, this is pretty. I want
this is cute. I'll look
good
in this
and
car.
then get hit with those, that big rim cost to get me some more charge. There were so many surprises. So I think, like you said, if you can get something you can afford. At one point, I was commuting 2 hours a day. I couldn't be in a little bitty V4 that was barely moving through Austin. I needed, just to keep from getting run over, I needed a certain size of car and a good gas mileage. So I think in America anyway, until we get better mass transportation, that it's reasonable debt. It's just depending on how far you go into it. But that was a question, I guess, on a test. How did I do?
You did so fantastic that I'm going to steal from you what you just said, because you began with my core principle, which is values. What are your values? You value, that's the first thing you talked about. You value safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
You value convenience, and mainly it was that safety. You want to be secure. You don't want, and as I like to say, I think a way to judge value on a car is, I don't want to be on the side of the road or the side of the freeway at 7 p.m.
Especially not as a female. No,
you don't, right? And so to me, that is a sort of value that should drive what you want to do, right? That should. So if your value is, I want to be safe in my person, safe in my home, I want my kids to be in a car that is safe in the back seat or whatever, then that's where you're going to want some of your money to go, right?
Right.
But if you don't have any money because you spend it on the bags, then you may have presented a problem. But I mean, what you said was just such a perfect explanation of how you let your values drive what you want to do with your money. And so for that, you're willing to go into some debt, right? Because you're getting out of it. So I would say that's good debt. Now, you got to get what you can afford.
Right.
You got to get what you need and get what you can afford, and what you need, not what you need me to see you in.
Right.
Don't worry about, stop at the red light,
or the valet, or the back of the parking lot, or wherever you try.
Exactly. So that was perfect. So to me, that sort of debt is good debt, and it's a choice. Some people say, nope, I'm gonna pay cash for a car, and that's it. Great, if that's your value.
And as you said earlier about the no debt, that is surprising to a lot of people who grew up with that mindset, and then they go to get a house or make a big purchase and they have no credit history. It really does bite you. And that happened to a friend just recently who was so proud that he didn't have any debt. And I'm like, but that credit history, the employers are looking at it now. HR is looking at, used to be the apartments, but now everyone is looking, because it must be quite indicative of your reliability. So just really, really good gems here. So you've heard this conversation. You've heard from Shelia Dansby Harvey, my personal financial friend. And now you're thinking, I need to get rid of some stuff. I need to downsize, minimize, just clean out the closet, all that stuff with tags on it. How do you get rid of the stuff? Is there a financially sound way to do that? Should we sell it? Because I was a Goodwill person for a long time. Now I'm going online selling stuff. So
I think a lot of it, because all this stuff is so personal,
Yes.
And so you do it in a way that's rewarding to you, because right now I'm at the dilemma also of having like clothes that I wore when I had to go into the office every day. And I'm sure there are tons of people like this, right? The way we has changed. So you got all these nice, or at least we think they're nice, right?
Right.
We have all these nice things, and you're like, do I really want to take this to Goodwill? This is really, you know what I mean. And so
I know exactly what you mean.
You're trying to figure out what you're going to do with things. And all I can say is have an open heart on it. You may, if it matters that much to you, you may want to do a little research to see what the avenues are to get rid of things. And I'm a great repurposer, because a lot of things I like, and I literally will put, especially the art that I have. So I may put it in the closet for like 3 years and then take it out. or if there is a piece of furniture, I might get it refinished. I love getting things reupholstered as
Girl,
opposed
wait. You reminded me. I just got to tell this because I'm
to.
old and I'll forget. I met a woman the other day and she told me, she was showing me some pictures of her kids. They were in her home and the decoration were so beautiful. And she goes, oh, that's my sister's couch and that's my brother's table. And I'm like, wait, what? She and her siblings exchange furniture every couple of years. So they feel like, I was like, you got to have the same taste, but that's just an idea of how you can think outside the box. Sometimes you just want a new look, and you've got a friend who wants a new look. Why not?
Yeah.
Now
that's different.
Isn't that different? I had never heard of it. And the stuff looked good too. So I don't know if somebody got the short end of the deal.
I know, right?
Yeah. I mentioned it to my sister. She was like, we don't really have the same taste.
But that goes to show you how you can be creative, and it is an individual choice. But the deal is oftentimes just not so much getting rid of what you have, but why are you still buying more?
Yes. Right. How many white blouses, black shoes, that particular belt do you need?
Yeah.
I cut you off on something I want to go back to because I want to make sure people are aware of what options they have with the Coco Millionaire. You've got on your website, you've got 3 millionaire opportunities: Coco Millionaire, Chocolate Millionaire, and Millionaire Idea Bounce. And I think you just shared Millionaire Idea Bounce.
Idea Bounce, right. And so the Coco Millionaires are a women's group. And so hence the name Coco Millionaires. Just, but in any event,
I like it.
We're women who we may not be millionaires, or we may, but the thing that we share in common is that we want to make the best, the most out of our income and assets. So we get together and we talk about money. We get together and we talk about money, and we do something fun in conjunction with that. So, for example, this month's Coco Millionaires meeting in Houston is Sunday, and we're having it at a boutique that has wonderful clothes. And so we're going to have champagne, we're going to try on clothes, and we're going to talk about expanding your wardrobe on a budget.
Nice.
Okay, and how you build, as you just asked me, you just set me up, Dr. Mo. How many white blouses? Yay! How many white blouses do you really need? How many? You just said it. So I'll be talking a little, dropping some money gems, and the boutique owner will be telling us how to build out a wardrobe on a budget. So Coco Millionaires does that sort of thing. We have speakers come in because generally we meet over, a meal or whatever. And we have people to come in different areas and talk about different things. In addition, Coco Millionaires, once you're a member of the Coco Millionaires, you have an opportunity to just do a one-on-one with me and just kind of work out some things. So we're active that way. Chocolate Millionaires are our men.
All right.
And I know that on a certain level in today's society, we're like, oh, men and women are exactly the same. And, there's no need to have a separate group. My personal opinion,
I don't know anybody who says men and women are exactly the
okay, good. Well,
no.
I read it sometimes.
Yeah, whoever wrote that must not know any men or women. That's all I can say.
You might be right. But I do find that men have a totally different aspect or way that they look at money and that they consider money. The things that are important to them about money are different. And so oftentimes I'll meet just with the Chocolate Millionaires, and that's the guys, and I'm the only woman on the phone. We usually do conference calls.
Okay.
And we talk about things. Yeah. And so that's what the Coco and the Chocolate Millionaires do. Support each other and talk about money.
Are you thinking about I know you're in the Houston area. Are you thinking about expanding these programs at some point? Well, I guess if you're doing Zoom or
Well, we've been doing Zoom lately. Prior to the pandemic, we always met in person. We've never done Zoom. But most of our members are in Houston, although there have been, especially with the Cocoa Millionaires, with the women, run into women. I'll have like a booth somewhere or whatever, and they're like, I got to join this because I need it, I want it, and I don't have friends that I talk about money with, so.
Got it. Well, if Google and I asked that because if Google and Spotify are to be believed, my demographics are all over the country, and I'm sure some people are hearing about these programs, and they could, get with you on the Millionaire Idea Bounce and other things. But there's definitely a great need for this, as we can see just looking at the news every day. Earlier this year, we're going to get to my favorite thing that you do, the unclaimed property. Earlier this year, you and I hosted a workshop in Austin, did a workshop on finance and wellness, really great. And there were maybe half a dozen women there, and we got to talk to them about different aspects of what we do and what we value. But I want to tell you that every woman who was there has reached out to me over the months since then, because I sent out the invites to say that they were able to find unclaimed property. Right. And if they were, because of what you said, if they were like me, they had no success in the past. So please talk about that. And I know you have a private investigation company. Just kind of share that, because I don't know what's different about what you're doing, but it helped me find almost $500. I am not kidding. I told you that. I texted you. Yes. I was like, oh my God, girl, it went all the way back. I have the sheet right here. Some of it was from like 1981, some bank, $98.86, $183 refund. Girl. Yep. I was so happy to get that $500.
Right? Just totally unexpected, right?
Totally.
Yeah. It feels so good. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that unclaimed property funds exist in every state in the country. So you don't have to be in Texas for what I'm saying to apply to you. So generally there is a fund, and what the unclaimed property fund is money that residents of that state have somehow abandoned, right? Not purposefully. It may be wages from a job that you had and then you moved, right? And when they sent you that last paycheck or that utility deposit, they sent it back. Your forwarding address had expired, and they don't know where to send the money, right? And so what companies are required to do, for example, if you work for a company and they tried to send you that last paycheck, or they tried to send you that utility bill or utility deposit, after a couple of years, whatever the state mandates, that money gets turned over to the state. And in most states, it stays there until the people who own it claim it and get it. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no, we'll hold the money for 6 years and then it becomes the property of the state. No,
that's what's incredible to me, that the state doesn't try to just keep it after a certain point. I mean, that's a great thing.
But check it out. In the state of Texas right now is holding $6 billion.
I believe it.
$6 billion that belongs to citizens of Texas, right?
I mean, I just got 40-year-old money back. So yeah, I believe it. I'm telling you guys, I have the proof. I posted it on my Facebook page and took screenshots because I knew people wouldn't believe me, because
people won't believe you. But I mean, so the state of Texas has $6 billion that belongs to residents, right? And businesses. That's the other thing to keep in mind. You look for it for yourself, but you also look for it for businesses. So let me just kind of explain things in order. What I do is I help to connect the property, which is money, we'll just say money, with the person that owns it. That's part of my business under personal financial friend. And what I do literally is I find people who have money that is just sitting out there with the state and they don't realize it most of the time. And I assist them in getting this money back. You would be now, and one thing that I think is true in most states is that a person can get the money back themselves. They don't need necessarily someone to help them. But that said, you would be surprised at the number of people who actually do need help and at the lack of assistance that they actually get from the state. Okay. So for in your situation, Dr. Mo, I think you probably were able to get it for yourself. And you got to have a personality to get your money for yourself too, right? No, you got to be on top of stuff. You can't say, oh, I'm going to figure out how to get this money and then put it off for 6 months.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're going to put it off for 6 months, you may as well let me get it for you right now. So what I do is I I go in, see what money they might be owed, okay, and help them file a claim for that money. In the state of Texas, a person has to have a private investigator's license in order to engage in that sort of business. So if you are thinking about getting somebody to help you find your unclaimed money, make sure that they're a licensed private investigator if you're in the state of Texas. If you're in other states have their own requirements. So if you're in a different state and you don't want to try to get it for yourself or, for whatever reason, it may be inheritance money, which requires a lot more documentation and making different contacts than you might know how to do or have the time to do. So make sure you're dealing with somebody who's qualified because they're going to be dealing with your sensitive information, your social security number, your driver's license, those sorts of things. Because you, Dr. Mo, to use you as an example, when you decided to claim your money, you had to prove up to them that you're Dr. Mo, that it's really you, and this is really your money, right? Because there could be another Dr. Mo out there, not hardly, but there could be a person with your same name. So you got to be able to prove it up. And that's where a person like me comes into play, because unless it's pretty straightforward, I can help you get the documentation you need to show where you lived when you got the money, or to explain why your name isn't exactly the same as what they're showing, or your address is off, and those sorts of things. So what happens is you apply for this money, you go through the process of proving up that you are that person who held that job or lived in that apartment back in 1992, whatever. You prove it up. And then in the state of Texas, the state sends a check directly to you for your money. Wasn't it good getting that check, Dr. Mo?
It was good. And it didn't take, a long time. I did have to fill stuff out and prove it and all of that, but I thought it would be months, but it was not very long at all. And I was really, really happy about it. Now, you said too that you could check about businesses and, your maiden name or your married name, but what about an ex-spouse or parents or deceased people? You can
check anybody that you want in the state of Texas. And the other thing that's interesting about it is that if you see, I've had several clients to not 100% remember where this money came from, but the state is able to line it up with their social security number, their past addresses and all that. And sure enough, it's their money. And I make that point to say there is no prohibition or penalty in looking for money and it turns out not to be you. Okay. So say if your name is Gwen Jones, probably a common name, and you're looking at it and you're like, did I live at that address, 25 years ago? If you're not quite sure, you're free to apply. There is no
Okay.
penalty if it turns out to be a different
That's
Wayne Jones.
That's a good point because I might hesitate. My name is not as common here, but when I lived in the Midwest, there were so many Andersons, and I might be afraid if you hadn't just shared that I'd get in trouble. They think I was trying to steal somebody something. But I checked for my mom because she's busy, got things going on, and I was going to tell her if I found something. So what she got me going, I probably spent a day. One day, just
fun, right?
Neighbors, anybody I ever knew trying to
Well, did you check your Anderson in what did you say, Minnesota?
Minnesota. I checked
Okay,
Minnesota. Good. I did. And I checked Fraser too. Girl, there was one of these that I was like, I don't know, but y'all are saying it's mine.
But it happens all the time. You can't remember everything, you can't remember everything. And they line it up, they line it up so that it turns out to be a pretty accurate, I think, way to do things. And also you should, and I think you mentioned this, Dr. Mo, you should check for family members, and particularly for family members who are deceased and have been gone for, some years, because often they have, I have people, maybe the mom took out one of those little, life insurance policies like on her Sears account or something like that. And Sears doesn't know this person has passed. And so they have this $2,500 life insurance policy that they bought from Sears sitting over here somewhere.
Oh, wow.
And so all those kinds of things are there. And I'm telling you, $6 billion. And this year, the state of Texas has matched up $285 million. That's a drop in the bucket, right?
It's a drop in the bucket, but that was probably helpful to a lot of people, though. It's still a significant amount of money, but that tells you there's so much more to go after. I get what you're saying.
Right. And so when my major challenge with that business is skepticism. I'll send a person a letter, tell them how much I found in their name. And a lot of people, I'm sure, just too afraid to even call me back, And so I always tell people you should be skeptical, but then do your research. Everybody wants to do their research for COVID. I wish some people would do some research. Right. I did my research. Do your research and you'll find out that I'm legit and that what I do is real and that this fund does exist. So don't be afraid to at least inquire about it before you just reject it out of hand. And people, well, money is not free. No, this money is money that's already owed to you. Nobody's giving you anything.
You earned it.
You earned it or you inherited it, but some sort of way somebody affiliated with you worked for that money, period.
Well, here's hoping listeners to this particular episode that you will take this to heart, because I'm coming to you with love to tell you that I tried it and it worked for me and multiple people who were at our workshop. So reach out to Shelia if you're interested in getting her help with it. And speaking of reaching out, before I ask my last question, tell folks how to find you, how to connect with you.
You can find me at I drew Dr. Mo, I have so much going on. I drew a blank.
Are we talking about your website, Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, exactly. You can reach me at personalfinancialfriend.com. That's personalfinancialfriend.com. You can also meet me. You can also find me at Coca Millionaire, COCOA millionaire.com. You can find me at 713-429-0440. That's my phone number, and I answer it all the time. You can send me an email to Shelia, SHELIA at personalfinancialfriend.com. So you see why I froze on you, right? I'm like,
there's a lot, but as a businesswoman who has trademarked my personal financial friend and Coco Millionaires, I need you to be able to promote and market. So
without a blank, right?
That's my elevator pitch, is how to reach me and engage me and
You're right.
engagement.
You're right.
Exactly. We started with the question about the biggest mistake people make with personal finances. I want to end with the question, after your years as a tax lawyer, working with clients, working with your new organization, My Personal Financial Friend, what would Shelia now tell your 20-year-old self about finances? One gem that would have made all the difference.
That is a great question. And I do recall, I'll tell you what I would say. Be persistent about your vision and knowing that you want to do something with your money. Because I remember when I first started work, I was 25 years old and I was, making $30,000 a year and had a little like 401k with, $4,000 in it or whatever. And I went to a financial planner and he rebuffed me because I didn't have anything. But when I look back at it, I kind of let that deter me for a little while because I was thinking, well, I don't have anything. And I would tell that 25-year-old person, just find somebody else, because there's somebody out there, you with your $4,000 in the bank, they'll work with you. And so, if you have a vision and you know that you want to get somewhere with your finances, start today. Don't let anybody deter you. Start today. And don't let your past mistakes, don't let that bother you. Start today.
All good, all good. That's a tweet. I always look for a tweetable moment. Start today. That goes for so many things. Well, Ms. Dansby Harvey, you have been delightful. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience with our listeners today. Always a pleasure. I mean, every time I talk to you, I learn something. I'm just a little bit wealthier every time I talk to you.
That is so sweet. And before we leave, I really want to congratulate you on your W3 award. I think that was this week. So congratulations. I hate to say I'm so proud of you because sometimes it sounds like,
I take it.
Yeah, okay, good. But I am, and I'm proud that you're my friend.
Thank you so much.
Lucky me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the W3 Podcast Awards. Those came out this week. I was really happy. I've been at this about 9 years. Just do it because I love it. It's a good way to reach out and engage people, empower people, and don't do it for recognition, but it's like getting a thank you. I don't give a gift for a thank you, but it's really nice when people come through with that.
Right.
Well, that's this episode. We are very, very grateful for our wonderful guest today. Again, that's Shelia Dansby Harvey. And thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Perpetual Motion with Dr. Mo Anderson. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast and my YouTube channel, and visit my website at drmoanderson.com for more about my books, workshops, or to schedule me as a speaker for your next event. Until next time, renew, review, and renew.